Yes, I hit record. Super.
You gotta hit record.
You got to start
Why am I starting?
because I always start.
But that's your thing.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the channel. My name's Eric, and this is Anna. And today is the same day as episode number 2. You wouldn't know that if I didn't say it, but I'm saying it so that you don't wonder, assuming that you're actually watching episode 3 after episode
2.
why are they dressed the same but sitting in different spots?
Want to fool you? Oh my gosh. I know, it's so sneaky. Look, I zipped up my sweater so I look kind of thing. And then this side of my hair today looks different than this side. This is straight. This is like half a curl. I don't even know what's happening today, guys. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I look like something caught in the drain. It's okay.
You look amazing.
It's okay. Thank you, baby.
You look amazing.
Make it work. It's not about the appearance. It's about the words. Right? It's not about the visual. It's about the audible. Is that a word? Audible? Yes, it is.
I sell essential oils in my yoga pants while I clean my house on YouTube. Give me 1,000,000 fans. Okay, you look amazing, baby.
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about what we always talk about. And by always, I mean it's only our 3rd episode, but we do digress.
You promised to stay on track.
So I'll try not to. But I think that there's a really good blend in what we're going to be talking about today. And by today, I mean, again, today.
Today.
Ooh, that's my height. We're going to talk a little bit about kids, about family, about the values that we instill in them and the values that we get out of instilling values in our kids, and how important it is to make sure that you have time between work, which is something that we were trying very, very hard to stay on topic with talking about last video.
Drink that coffee, baby.
Podcast.
Drink that coffee.
Oh, it's so
Bottoms
good
up.
too.
Bottoms up. Throw me a subject in regards to kids. Not subject, like subcategory.
Behavioral stuff.
Okay. So let's go with this concept of parents, actually grown-ups in general, parents or guardians or teachers, whatever, right?
Yeah.
The concept of let kids be kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so the kid can be acting like a complete twat or a bully or just not. It's like, imagine the biggest jerk that you met in your life, in your like older life, and then you take that behavior and you put it into a human that is, half your size,
Pint size,
and a third of your age, and you just, like let them run with it and then say, well, it's okay. Let them just be kids. They're just kids. They'll grow out of it.
Look, Anna and I never expected to be doing what we're doing with our careers, but we made it very clear from a very early point in our relationship that if and when we had kids, we were going to be teaching them discipline. We were going to be teaching them right from wrong. We were going to advise them. We weren't going to be telling them yes, no, right, wrong. We were going to be giving them an ability to understand the values of what they're doing so they can hopefully, sooner rather than later, think before they speak. In instances where they were young and foolish enough that they didn't think before they speak, a great example of that was when they had no concept that they were making fun of the weight of one of our neighbors, and did so to the point that our neighbors, realizing that it was a child speaking, still got so emotionally frustrated that they left. That was an opportunity for us to have a talk with them very politely. Not what's wrong with you. That's awful. There's nothing wrong with a child not knowing that they're saying something mean. But, what we said was, imagine you were in the shoes of that person. Stuff that takes more than 5 seconds to say, no, that was wrong, or that was rude. Why would you? Or, like I said, how dare you? Wrong words, right words. Talk to them. Make them feel like what they say matter. so that they can learn and they can appreciate what matters. And take all that back to not nobody, but so few that we have noticed with our kids in school. It doesn't at least look like they try to do the same thing. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of parents that we encounter, they kind of live by the philosophy of, I'm your parent, I'm going to tell you what to do. And it's kind of like my way or the highway. And then you have the other extreme where parents just kind of like let their kids roam free and pretend like, the kids or their child has lived enough to know which, which door to open and which route to take and what to say and what not to say. And we're trying to be a little bit more kind of like a happy medium where sometimes it's just a very clear cut, yes or no. But I think most of the times it's trying to make them understand why something is happening the way it's happening, and then let them kind of deduce how they should be behaving and whether whatever they did, whether that was the right or wrong thing to do.
I think that something else that we do very well, knock on wood, is we've from a very early point, and it doesn't mean that it's easy for the kids either, because it's always a requirement to think before you act, and that's not always easy for a grown up. Imagine how difficult it is for a kid. You want to be good in this life. You don't want to be the person who makes others feel bad. I think we've said it in the previous.
Theory.
Yeah, I think we've said this in the previous podcast. Um, we try very hard because they have the capability, our boys, to be leaders. So we try very hard to have them acknowledge the ability to be a leader, in a kind way, in a polite way, in a way that makes them a good person. And they try really hard. And again, for lack of a lot of development, you see a lot of other kids who are probably more babyish than they should be at the age that they're at, where we have examples every year, and it's a different kid, at minimum one different kid every year, who is, I want it my way, way. And because they're the loudest, they usually end up getting their way, because once they do what they do with their excitement, all the other kids with their wonderful attention spans is like, yay, an excited kid. But ruining the activity that could be an actual organized sport or an organized game or anything else that so many others were expecting to have fun doing, because by having a set of rules, you can have fun doing your best and trying hard versus I want it. Yeah.
That was nice. Good job.
So in terms of being good and in terms of having other kids be good, I think it's one of those things that really drives us nuts when we don't see the basic parenting happening with children, like right from wrong. At the very minimum, I think that do this or don't do this is better than what we often see, which is I let my kids parent themselves. I let my kids figure their own messes out. Like an adage that absolutely everybody that I ever knew growing up was, you want to learn from other people's mistakes, not from your own. So why are these people conscientiously telling their kids, make your own mistakes and hopefully learn from them without ruining things for everybody around you in the meantime? Like, why would you not evolve yourself as a person?
Well, the idea of like having hands off parenting approach is not something that is unique to right now, but I think the more you're trying to be involved in your kids' lives, the more you realize how difficult it is when it's like, 2 versus 30, and then the 30 do whatever the heck they want because that's like they don't know any better. And in theory,
Are you
okay,
bringing up the classroom now? Like the actual teacher doing?
Hypothetically,
Okay.
yes,
And
and
realistically?
realistically, no. But this whole idea of like, okay, we'll let kids be kids. It's like there's a really fine line between a child acting like a child and like, like you let babies like play on the playground and like put sand in their mouth, like all that stupidity. And a lot of parents are like, oh my God, don't touch the mud. And then the other parents are like, here's mud for dinner. Like, like develop your gut bacteria or whatever it is. But
Earthy and organic.
but there's a fine line between letting kids do and be and learn versus allowing that to be an excuse to just destructive behavior. And like we've seen that this year in our kids' school, like our boys are in grade 3 and 4, and the amount of bullying in those grades,
Verbal.
verbal bullying, but I think, as we were talking before, like I think it's like way worse. Like I'd rather my kid to come home with a black eye than to come home and like, because you don't know what happened, right? Like, because words.
I wouldn't rather either, but I get what
Well,
you're
yes,
saying.
but if that's
Verbal
what's happening.
is, let me take your money, I don't like you, boom, versus mental anguish for the rest of your days.
Yeah, because if they don't tell you what happened, then you're never gonna know, and then weeks or months can pass, and then you see something off with your kid, and then you kind of try and pull it out of them. Um, an example last year was when somebody called Eli fat.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a really frustrating time because, I mean, going a little bit out of order here again, we conscientiously sit with our kids for dinner every single night. We try to eat with them, but there's often times that we have to go back and forth and serve and reserve and all that good stuff. But regardless, we're always with them. And we always ask them, how was your day? And we've gone from good to details to over details to what's best, what's room for improvement, all of that stuff. And that's kind of how we get to really understand our kids, and we get to develop trust with our kids, and we get to have them feel like they can actually share things with us. And I know that it's not always going to be that easy, especially as they get older and different kind of preteen and teen issues, but that's something that we are very proud of, that we've instilled in our kids from a young age. And we do the same thing. They ask us about our day and we give them a lot of detail. So it took us a while. We're not saying that it happened overnight, but slowly but surely you start to realize that Eli is not eating certain things, or he's saying no thank you to seconds when he used to ask for thirds on certain occasions, or even fourths on certain occasions. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he was always into sports, so he was always kind of like lean cuisine physique, and he would he was never into junk, thankfully. Like we never got the pleasure of having that issue. Like he has no desire to what?
Pizza is healthy.
Well, sure. But I mean like
He loves eating
no
healthy foods.
no overeating on sweets and no McDonald's or whatever. Like he doesn't drink pop. Like so he's always been like home food, but yes, I want more, which is fine. And we never really stopped him. Um yeah, but then we noticed that he would kind of dwindle down on that,
No,
and
thank you.
then he'd bring some of his food back from school, and then he'd say he didn't have time to finish it. Anyways, it was just kind of, it was weird. So
Yeah, eventually we got to the point of, never pressuring him, never pressing on things don't add up. Why are you lying to us? But, getting to the point of saying, like, how did you transition from wanting to have this much food to all of a sudden this much food? And when your child and you can see it in their eyes that they would probably feel good about having more, but inside of them they feel like it's a bad idea. And why would it be a bad idea? And from a parental perspective, it actually started with not knowing that this happened at school, but by telling him, listen, we know what's important for your health. And I don't know what it's like at school, but do other kids bring a lot of chocolates to school? Do other kids seem to eat more junky foods? And we've heard it all. We've heard kids eating like horribly unhealthy foods every single day, plus pop, plus this, plus that. And our kids were always something relatively homemade, or if it was previously frozen, whatever, it's a relatively healthier version of something or a more traditional version of something with a proper proportion of something. And we were always saying to him, like, if we're telling you you can have more, believe us when we tell you that that's not going to make you fat. It's good for you as you're a growing person. It's when you're asking for fourths and you have this face on you, like, can I have fourths? It's like, okay, 3 is enough. If you need something else in 30 minutes, we can happily cut up some fruit, or we can do some vegetables, or we can. Like we do air pop popcorn sometimes as a snack, just the healthier things. So to get that out of him was first like, okay, and you could see that he's begrudgingly taking more food and he's worried about what it's going to make him look like. And then you discovered it.
I just like flat out asked him when I was putting him to bed, like, did somebody say something to you in school? And he said, so and so called me fat. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm hoping that I was not like showing frustration on my face with my inability, with my poker face, not. But yeah, that's how, and we had to have a long talk with him, and I feel like it's still somewhere in the back of his head, like bullying at this age, and where is it all coming from? And how would a kid in grade 3 or 4 even know to, like, the fact that you have the desire to purposely go and hurt somebody else's feelings,
to go out of your way to insult,
to go out of your way to insult, to go out of your way to make somebody else feel bad, and then to laugh at it. Like, how does this happen at this age? Like, you haven't lived long enough to like get traumatized by seeing things like, I don't know how high schools are these days, where you see like on TV people get shoved in lockers and all that stuff. Like, I don't know if it's a thing, but like, you're a kid, like you're supposed to be living your life thinking everything is, bubbles and pink and great and unicorns and happy and all that stuff. So like, at what point does something shift in your head that makes you want to just become a jerk?
Well, we also know other kids that are family friends or related, that are meaner. So again, you're right to say, like, where does it come from, and where does parenting come into play, and let's just leave it to them to figure out, because they're so mature at 7, 8, 9, 10 to handle things. That you said it earlier in this conversation, like, where is the school system in it? There's a difference between two kids where you're seeing a parent being too busy to teach the child that there is value in being a good person, compared to a teacher whose literal job is to educate on right and wrong. Like, there is no 2 + 2 is 5. There's right and there's wrong when it comes to things like that. There's interpretation and other things, but good is good and bad is bad. There's no gray area in, for whatever reason, making someone feel really bad about themselves and putting a smile on your face that you made someone sad. Like, that's not good. And we see that far too often. And it goes back to that story of talking to Lucas's teacher, which is, I'm taking it a little bit away from bullying, but it goes back to educating and the value of being a good parent, because it really does start from home. I think you agree with that.
Yeah.
It's not enough to say my kid is in school, my kid's teacher is going to make them a good person or not. No, that's your job as a human being of this planet, to make your kids better. Period. End of story. I will never, ever sway in opinion on this. And here's a teacher who is unfortunately showing us the complete lack of, I don't want to say common sense. What's the word I'm looking for?
Common sense.
Okay. So we get a note in the middle of the day from a secure server that the school uses for messaging. Say it's okay, middle of the day. It's 9:20. So it's in the middle of lesson time. And the teacher is writing to us in such a way where it seems like they're putting blame on us for not feeding our child in the morning because it's 9:20 and he's already asking about having a snack. Later on, we find out that it's not that he's wondering if he can have a snack, it's that he's asking when is snack time. So, and maybe this is why they've spent the last 3 weeks learning how to tell time. Because
Yeah, we're the reason.
I've literally asked Lucas, like, do you not see the clock? Like, you know how to tell time. You know when recess is. No, I don't. I just hear the bell ring. Like, okay, you know now that recess is at 10:20 and you have a snack at 10 o'clock before that, right? So if you look at the clock and it's 9:20, you know that in 40 minutes it's snack time. Whereas in this instance, she comes to us and she says he's always asking for a snack. Again, he says, no, he's asking when is snack time. So she allows him to have a snack, which is a different funny story because he often brings home part of his snack, right?
Yeah.
And we're like, why? Oh, because I didn't have enough time to finish it. I was busy playing with my friends. We get it. You're trying to find ways to play more rather than eat instead of play. You're a kid. But to be intelligent enough to be able to manipulate your teacher, an adult who's been doing this for 20 plus years, that I would like to eat at a time before it's eating time so that I can play longer. And for her not to get it, but worse, to send it over a secure server like this, it literally made us feel like, are you accusing us of not feeding our child before the school day starts? Backtrack even further, she was so grateful that he always comes to school looking like he had a good night's rest and looking like he's energized and ready for the day. So again, for that message to come the way that it did, and then I put the pieces together and I very politely ask her, is there any chance he's doing this because he knows that he's going to have extra playtime? Doesn't she write back 5 minutes later, still during lesson time? She didn't wait until it was break time to send this to us. During lesson time, ha ha, he does always have a smirk on his face. How are you not paying attention when you are getting paid considerably more than the average teacher on planet Earth to notice little things? And you're a parent too. And this drives me bonkers, is that where does it come from that these kids have no idea of discipline, not even in school? You noticed it yourself when a different bully in front of the teacher decided to go up to a kid and say something extremely rude.
Yeah.
And in this case, it wasn't to one of our kids, but it was one of our kids who decided to stand up for that kid. Sad situation, that kid will not then stand up for Eli, who has now taken the responsibility of being verbally bullied. The teacher says, stop that, but doesn't actually get to the root of the situation. The principal appears to try very hard to get it done. But why do we have to tell the principal when the teacher should already be aware enough that this needs to stop well before it ever gets out of hand? And it gets out of hand way too fast because nobody tries to stop it unless the parent gets involved. I know I digressed, but that's just how passionate this conversation is. And going back to the idea of sports, where Eli's not the only one that's super athletic. Lucas loves his sports as well. Eli can live on a field of any kind. Lucas will take his breaks. He'll want to do other things, sometimes more so. But, just the idea of doing organized sports, it's always been something where there's a set of rules, there's a set of equality, there's a set of benefit to doing your best, performing your best, feeling successful about doing that sort of stuff, and doing it all from a perspective of fairness and camaraderie. That's always been really good. But even in house leagues, like they've done both competitive and non-competitive, But it's just incredible seeing the level of cheating that goes on. And it comes from the parents more than the kids. The kids are learning from that. And it's kind of sad because especially when you're in leagues where, I mean, no matter what it is, you want to teach your children how important it is to win by doing your best, not cheating. An expression I always use is cheaters don't make champions.
Yeah, it was quite messed up, I think, to say the least. I mean, last summer you were coaching the kids baseball team, and the reality was that on the field, like, we saw so many parents who, like, my child has to win at all costs, like, whether it's by the rules or not by the rules, like, fake it until you make it. That was really something that was so evident. Young parents, old parents, like some grandparents got involved, like, it was crazy. And it's the same thing with tennis. Like, you have these country club kids who are like, 8, 9, 10 years old, wearing their like matchy clothes, and the parents look like they just came out of a magazine cover, and the kid is literally throwing temper tantrums on the court because things are not going their way. Falling
Crying,
over, throwing the
screaming.
racket, like full on, I'm telling you, like a temper tantrum. So,
Ironically, the rules in that particular event was do it 3 times and you're disqualified. It was a half dozen times, and he ended up winning the match. So it's like
but it's just this, again,
all
going back
levels.
to the whole like complete disregard for anything that is understanding of what's right and what's wrong and what's appropriate and inappropriate, um for the sake of getting like that much more ahead, whether it's in sports by cheating, whether it's in school by saying something to hurt somebody else's feelings so that you can feel better about yourself, like anywhere really. And talking about kids are everything, which is the title of this episode. um you kind of fuck them up from a young age, and then you wonder, why is the world so messed up? And now there's like this thing. I haven't actually read the articles because I'm scared to open them because I don't want to be like bombarded by cookies. But like, I don't know if you saw it on your feeds, like 10-year-olds in Sephora, like that's a thing
Can
now.
I just say that whoever called it cookies, like you knew that it,
Brilliant.
like yeah, sugar rush,
Brilliant.
drug rush. Like come on, why they don't call it liquid or digital heroin? I don't know, but still, it's the same thing, right?
No, but there's this thing now with
Unbelievable.
like like 10 years, specifically 10-year-olds in Sephora. And I don't exactly know what it's about, but like when you go on social feeds and you see, especially like the younger moms with their kids, again, very like preppy, matchy. Our boys are coming to us from school and asking, is it appropriate for, a 9-year-old girl to wear makeup, or somebody in grade 3 or 4 to have like fake nail? Like, what is that? Right? And then we wonder, why is society so messed up, and why is the end of the world coming?
The reality and the point of this conversation is what's most valuable is not to start teaching your children from an early age how to be vain. It's how to be good. It's how to be a good person. You want to cut vain out of your life, at least as much as possible. You teach the value of kindness, respect, goodness from a young age. You don't ignore situations where you know that there's an issue. I'm talking about teachers here. I'm talking about parents. And if you don't know that your kid is like this, why are you even a parent? But, anyways, do better. Is that a fair statement? Do better.
Be better than the Gap.
I love Cal. What are you doing? My schwanz is in your face. We had kids because we wanted to be parents, not because we thought that it was the right thing to do, not because we wanted to evolve the chain. If you don't care enough about your kid, what chain? What's the value? You will not be remembered. Okay. There's enough of that in your own mind when you think about your great 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 grandparents that you do not know who they were, how old they were, when they were born, what their names were, who they married, blah, 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 blah. Be good. Care about the things that matter most. And you know what? It's not too late. It's never too late. Be there for your kid. Be there for your kid. Teach your kid to be there for their kid. You're going to do a pretty amazing snowball effect for the generations to come. Be remembered or not, you're going to make your family something to be proud of and not something to just push off.